You wake up tired. You drag yourself to the kitchen, eat what you genuinely believe is a healthy breakfast, and then, within an hour, you feel worse than before you ate. Slower. Foggy. Like someone wrapped your brain in cotton and dimmed the lights on your entire body. Sound familiar? Here's what most people do in that moment. They chalk it up to age. They think, well, I'm over 60 now. This is just how it is. And they pour themselves another cup of coffee, hoping that will fix it. But it doesn't. And the cycle repeats the next morning. And the morning after that. What if I told you this isn't aging? What if the exhaustion you feel after breakfast isn't inevitable, and in fact, your breakfast itself might be the exact thing causing it, because that's exactly what the research suggests. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your body during those first 2 hours of the morning, you'll never look at your breakfast the same way again. Let's start by naming the problem clearly, because I think a lot of people minimize this without realizing how significant it really is. Fatigue after eating, what doctors sometimes call postprandial fatigue, is incredibly common, especially in adults over 60. But common doesn't mean normal. There's a critical difference between the two, and it's a difference that matters enormously for your long-term health. When you consistently feel drained, sluggish, or sleepy within 30 to 90 minutes of eating breakfast, your body is communicating something. It's not whispering. It's sending a clear, persistent signal. And that signal is worth paying attention to. The problem is, most people receive that signal and immediately misinterpret it. They assume it's fatigue from aging, or poor sleep, or just one of those days. But what the science increasingly shows is that this kind of recurring morning exhaustion is almost always tied to something specific, something identifiable, and something you can actually do something about. So let's talk about what's really going on. The number one cause of post-breakfast fatigue, and this is backed by decades of metabolic research, is a rapid blood sugar spike followed by a sharp crash. And understanding this mechanism is going to change how you think about breakfast entirely. Here's what happens. You eat something that digests quickly. White bread. A bowl of sweetened cereal. Toast with jam. A glass of fruit juice. Maybe a cup of sweet tea with a biscuit on the side. These foods are made primarily of refined carbohydrates and simple sugars, which your digestive system breaks down almost immediately. Within minutes of eating them, glucose floods your bloodstream. Your blood sugar rises fast. Very fast. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Your body reads this rapid spike as a problem, not as nourishment, but as something that needs to be corrected urgently. So your pancreas releases a surge of insulin. Insulin's job is to take that glucose out of the bloodstream and push it into your cells. And it does that job efficiently. Sometimes too efficiently. The blood sugar that shot up rapidly. It comes down rapidly too. Sometimes it drops below the level it was at before you even started eating. That sudden drop, that's the crash. And when your blood sugar crashes, your body enters a mild state of metabolic distress. You feel it immediately. Fatigue. Brain fog. Irritability. A strong urge to sit down or lie down. Some people feel dizzy or slightly lightheaded. Others just feel inexplicably flat, like the energy just drained out of them without warning. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is your body telling you that the fuel you just gave it created more instability than stability. Now here's where it gets especially important for people over 60. As we age, our cells become less sensitive to insulin, a process called insulin resistance. This means the pancreas often has to release more insulin to do the same job. And more insulin means a sharper, more dramatic crash. The same breakfast that might cause mild fatigue in a 35-year-old can cause significant exhaustion in someone over 60. The biology is working against you, unless you adjust what you're eating. Now here's where this gets genuinely interesting. Most people trying to eat healthy are still triggering this cycle without knowing it. Because a lot of what we've been told is a healthy breakfast for seniors, fruit juice, whole grain toast, low-fat cereal, still spikes blood sugar significantly. The difference between white bread and whole wheat bread, in terms of blood sugar response, is smaller than most people realize. And fruit juice, even 100% natural orange juice, delivers sugar to your bloodstream almost as fast as a soft drink does, because the fiber that normally slows digestion has been removed. This is one of the most common and most damaging misconceptions about morning nutrition for older adults. And we'll come back to how you fix it shortly. The second major piece of this puzzle is protein, or more accurately, the lack of it in a typical senior breakfast. Protein is not just for building muscle. It plays a critical role in stabilizing your blood sugar and sustaining your energy levels throughout the morning. When you eat protein alongside carbohydrates, it slows the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream. That means a gentler rise in blood sugar, and a gentler, more gradual return to baseline. No dramatic spike. No dramatic crash. Just steady, sustained energy. But look at the average breakfast for someone over 60 in America. Toast. Cereal. Maybe some fruit. A cup of tea or coffee. Where's the protein? Often it's absent entirely, or present in such small amounts that it barely makes a difference metabolically. Research published through institutions like Harvard School of Public Health has found that higher protein intake at breakfast is associated with better satiety, more stable energy levels, and reduced afternoon fatigue. And multiple studies looking specifically at older adults have found that protein becomes even more important with age, not less, because the body becomes less efficient at using the protein it does consume, meaning you actually need more of it to get the same effect. Eggs are one of the most studied breakfast proteins, and they consistently show up in research as an excellent option for morning energy. They're high in leucine, an amino acid that's particularly important for muscle preservation in older adults. They contain healthy fats that slow digestion. And they provide a complete source of nutrition that genuinely sustains you. A breakfast built around 2 eggs, whether scrambled, poached, or prepared however you prefer, performs dramatically differently in your body than a breakfast built around toast and jam. Greek yogurt is another powerful option. It's high in protein, contains beneficial probiotics for gut health, and digests well for most people. Adding a handful of nuts to your breakfast, almonds, walnuts, whatever you enjoy, adds protein and healthy fat simultaneously. Even something like lentils, which might seem unusual for breakfast but is a staple in many parts of the world, provides a remarkable combination of protein, fiber, and slow-digesting carbohydrates that keeps energy stable for hours. The practical shift here isn't dramatic. You don't need to overhaul your entire morning routine. You just need to make sure protein is actually present in meaningful amounts, ideally 20 to 30 grams at breakfast. That number might sound high if you're used to eating almost none, but it's achievable with 2 eggs, a serving of Greek yogurt, or a small portion of smoked salmon on whole grain toast. There's a third factor that people almost never connect to morning fatigue, and it's one of the simplest to address once you know about it. Dehydration. By the time you sit down to eat breakfast, your body has been without water for 6 to 8 hours. While you slept, your body continued all its essential processes, breathing, circulating blood, regulating temperature, all of which require fluids. You wake up in a mild state of dehydration every single morning, without exception. Now here's where the problem compounds. What do most people do immediately after waking up? They make coffee, or they brew tea. And while coffee and tea do contain water, they also contain caffeine, which is a mild diuretic, meaning it encourages your kidneys to release more fluid. So the first thing many people consume in the morning actually increases fluid loss rather than replenishing it. Dehydration, even mild dehydration, has a measurable effect on cognitive function and energy levels. Research from institutions including the University of Connecticut has found that even a 1 to 2% reduction in hydration status can cause fatigue, reduced concentration, and headaches. For older adults, this effect is amplified, partly because the sensation of thirst becomes less reliable with age. You may not feel thirsty, but your body is still depleted. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Before you do anything else in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before checking your phone, drink a full glass of water. 12 to 16 ounces. Room temperature or warm if that's easier on your stomach. This single habit can make a measurable difference in how you feel within the first hour of your day. If you want to take it a step further, adding a small pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon to your morning water helps replace electrolytes that were lost overnight, improving how efficiently your cells absorb and use that hydration. Most people stop here, but what comes next is the part that actually changes things. Because there's a fourth cause of morning fatigue that doesn't originate in your breakfast at all. It originates the night before. And it's one that gets almost no attention in conversations about morning energy. Sleep quality in adults over 60 changes significantly from earlier decades. The structure of sleep shifts. Deep sleep, the most restorative stage, known as slow-wave sleep, becomes shorter and more fragmented. REM sleep cycles change. And crucially, older adults are more likely to experience micro-awakenings throughout the night, brief moments of lighter sleep or wakefulness that don't always register consciously but absolutely prevent the kind of deep restoration the brain and body need. When your sleep is shallow or disrupted, your body hasn't fully cleared the metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. Your brain, specifically the glymphatic system, which flushes waste products from neural tissue during deep sleep, hasn't had enough time to complete its cleaning cycle. Your muscles haven't fully recovered. Your hormonal rhythms are disrupted. And cortisol, the hormone that's supposed to peak in the early morning to give you a natural energy boost, may not rise at the right time or to the right level. So when you sit down to eat breakfast in this already depleted state, your body is not in a position to use that energy efficiently. And the blood sugar fluctuations from a carb-heavy breakfast hit harder because your regulatory systems are already compromised. This is why the breakfast and the sleep are so deeply interconnected. Improving your breakfast will help, significantly. But if your sleep quality remains poor, you're addressing only half the equation. Simple interventions like keeping a consistent sleep schedule, avoiding screens for an hour before bed, keeping your bedroom cool and dark, and limiting alcohol in the evening, even one drink, can meaningfully improve the quality of your deep sleep cycles. And better sleep means your breakfast actually has something to work with. Now I want to talk about something that's more serious, and I say this not to alarm you, but because it's genuinely important information that could protect your health. If you feel tired after eating consistently, not occasionally, but regularly, most mornings, week after week, this could be an early warning sign of blood sugar dysregulation. And in some cases, it may indicate prediabetes or undiagnosed type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes affects an estimated 1 in 3 American adults. And the sobering reality is that the vast majority of people with prediabetes don't know they have it. There are often no dramatic symptoms. Just subtle, recurring signals, like persistent fatigue after meals, unusual thirst, slightly blurred vision at times, or feeling like your energy never quite stabilizes throughout the day. The blood sugar spike and crash we talked about earlier is dramatically more pronounced in people with insulin resistance or prediabetes. The pancreas is overworking. The cells aren't responding efficiently to insulin. The swings are wider and more destabilizing. And the fatigue that follows can be significant. This is educational content, not medical advice, and I want to be clear about that. What you eat and how you live can meaningfully support healthy blood sugar regulation, but if you're concerned about prediabetes or blood sugar issues, please have a conversation with your doctor. A simple fasting blood glucose test or an HbA1c test can give you real clarity, and catching blood sugar issues early gives you the best opportunity to address them through lifestyle before they progress. What I will say is this: the breakfast changes we're discussing here, more protein, less refined carbohydrate, proper hydration, are the same changes that research consistently supports for improving blood sugar stability. So whether or not blood sugar is a concern for you right now, these adjustments benefit everyone. So let's get practical. Let's talk about exactly what you do starting tomorrow morning, not someday, not when you're ready, but tomorrow. The first thing is water. Before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, drink a full glass of water. Make it part of the routine so that it happens automatically. Keep a glass on your nightstand if that helps. This single step addresses the dehydration issue and gives your digestive system and brain a head start before food arrives. The second thing is protein, and this is the most important structural change you can make to your breakfast. Aim for a meaningful protein source at every morning meal. 2 eggs prepared any way you enjoy them. A cup of plain Greek yogurt, ideally full fat or at least 2%, which you can top with a small amount of fresh fruit and a tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flaxseed for added fiber. A small portion of smoked salmon on a slice of whole grain toast. A handful of mixed nuts alongside whatever else you're eating. Even a protein smoothie made with unsweetened almond milk and a scoop of protein powder can work if you're not a big breakfast eater. The third thing is reducing refined carbohydrates, particularly first thing in the morning. This doesn't mean eliminating carbohydrates. It means being thoughtful about which ones you choose and pairing them with protein and fat. Swap white bread for whole grain bread, and eat it alongside eggs rather than alone. Replace sugary cereal with steel-cut oats, which digest far more slowly than instant oats, topped with nuts and perhaps a small amount of berries. Replace fruit juice entirely. Eat the actual fruit instead, where the fiber is intact and slows the sugar absorption considerably. The fourth thing is to pay close attention to how you feel in the 90 minutes after eating. Your body is giving you real-time feedback. If you consistently feel sharp, clear, and energized, your breakfast is working. If you feel foggy, slow, or sleepy, that's valuable information, and it tells you something in that meal needs to shift. Treat your body's response as data. And the fifth thing, which connects back to sleep, is to establish a consistent wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm, the biological clock that governs your cortisol awakening response and dozens of other energy-related processes, loves consistency. When you wake at the same time every day, your body begins preparing for wakefulness before you even open your eyes, releasing cortisol in a natural, energizing arc. When your wake time is inconsistent, that arc is disrupted, and you often feel groggy and fatigued even after adequate sleep. These 5 changes are not dramatic. They don't require expensive supplements or complicated meal planning. They're foundational, and they work because they're aligned with how your body actually functions. Here's the honest truth about what to expect when you make these changes. You're probably not going to feel dramatically different after one breakfast. That's important to understand. Metabolic patterns that have developed over months or years don't reverse overnight. What you'll likely notice after 3 to 5 days of consistent changes is a gradual reduction in that heavy, sluggish feeling after eating. Your mornings will start to feel a little lighter. A little clearer. After 2 to 3 weeks, most people experience a meaningful shift. Steadier morning energy. Less of that fog in the first hour after breakfast. Better concentration. Some people find they don't reach for a second cup of coffee because they simply don't feel they need it as desperately. After 4 to 6 weeks of consistent protein-forward, lower refined carb breakfasts with proper hydration, many people describe the experience of morning fatigue becoming the exception rather than the rule. Not every morning will be perfect, sleep quality varies, stress affects energy, life is unpredictable. But the floor of your baseline morning energy genuinely rises. Be patient with the process, but be consistent. Consistency is the ingredient that makes all of this work. And if you make these changes and still feel consistently exhausted after meals, that's your signal to talk to your doctor. Persistent postprandial fatigue can sometimes be related to thyroid function, anemia, cardiovascular issues, or blood sugar regulation, all of which are conditions your doctor can evaluate and address. Don't ignore a signal your body keeps sending. If you've watched this far, you already know that what's been happening to you in the morning isn't aging. It's not inevitable. And it's not something you simply have to accept. Your breakfast is either working for your body or against it. And now you know exactly which one yours has been doing, and what to do about it. Start tomorrow. 1 glass of water. 1 protein source. A little less sugar. And pay attention. Your body will tell you what's changing. If this gave you a different way of thinking about your morning energy, I'd love to know. Drop energy in the comments below. And if you know someone over 60 who deals with this every morning and has just accepted it as normal, share this with them. Because this is exactly the kind of information that changes daily life in quiet but real ways. Subscribe if you want more. This is what I do here. Real science, explained like a friend, applied to real life after 60. I'll see you in the next one.